We are back with the second session of the current review. My name is Thamsanqa Tu, otherwise known as TT from the TT Hookup. We are on current review, episode number 15. I am being joined by a regular on the current review now, the Honorable Karabo Khakhau. I've learned, I no longer say Khakhau. The Honorable Karabo Khakhau, compliments of the New Year, sis. Are you well?
Compliments of the New Year to you, Lee, and all our followers. I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for having me.
You look very good in blue.
Thank you. I'm focused.
All the blue around you is just nice.
Very focused.
Very focused. Man, let's get right into it. We spoke, like our last conversation on this platform. We spoke about the problems at NSFAS. And there is a greater manifestation now of what you were decrying on that, last episode when we last spoke. What do you think of this outer report?
I think the outer report couldn't have come at a better time. If anything, we needed it earlier. And so we're very grateful for the investigations and the release there. And this is why this morning, I, together with my chief whip in the National Assembly, laid criminal charges against Minister Nzimande and the chairperson of NSFAS, Ndate Khoza, at the Cape Town police station for these corrupt allegations. We want the police service to hone in to do service for the students who are affected, because ultimately corruption within NSFAS and corruption within the Department of Higher Education is corruption against baithuti, millions of students who depend on government to fund them, to fund their futures, and ultimately putting a pothole in their way of gaining success and the ability to ultimately put food on the table for themselves and their families. Because let's also remember this, Abtitan. The students who are funded by NSFAS are poor students, majority of them. Students who, outside of government and NSFAS, were most probably going to be left in the streets, unemployed, uneducated, and unemployable. And so to be stealing coffers within an entity and the department that administers funding to give the realization of a better tomorrow for poor students is cruel. It's absolutely cruel, and this is why we've taken action as the Democratic Alliance. But beyond the criminal charges we've put, we want to make sure that there's an SIU. We want to make sure that we use the mechanisms within Parliament as well to keep him accountable, to bring him to book, because ultimately he's still a minister, and for as long as he's a minister, he's accountable to Parliament and the people of South Africa.
Do you think, though, there's sufficient evidence for the National Prosecuting Authority to really take action against those who are implicated in this particular saga?
Oh, there's definitely a lot. There's a lot. Everything that has happened throughout the years, the messes, the collapses in payments. One day there's money, today, tomorrow there's no money. You are given funding as a student today, tomorrow you get to campus, there isn't. All the audit outcomes that have shown irregular and fruitless expenditures that have been happening within the department, the outer investigation themselves, including all the other reports, investigation reports that are there. Within the department, point us in the right direction. But we want more. We want to get to the depth of this, right? So we're submitting a PIA application in addition to the criminal charges as well, so that we're also able to aid the work that the South African Police Service is going to be doing. So there's more, and that's why we're taking this seriously, and we implore the law to exercise its full might to bring him to task, particularly when because we know that the same department has a 1.1 billion shortfall. That 1.1 billion shortfall of NSFAS means that there's now suddenly no money available to fund over 87,000 students in this financial year. 87,000 more students are going to be left and locked outside of the doors of education because of mismanagement, maladministration, and corruption within NSFAS. Those are people, children, banababatu. They are people's children who come from poor households, who are in most cases their family's only hope out of that poverty.
And
so
that's one of the reasons I actually don't want to believe that Blade Nzimande could be involved in that kind of malfeasance, because he is he's supposedly a communist, a former general secretary of the Communist Party, who are supposed to be caring for the poor and downtrodden. Do you think, like, really he would be that way inclined, really, to deprive
this is why
people?
You and I are on the same page, because that is what makes him extra disgusting. That what makes these acts of corruption extra disgusting is already that, because the allegations that Outer put out indicate that he's not only funding himself, the Dr. Khoza, the chairperson of NSFAS, but the SACP itself as a political party. That is problematic. But also the reason why we're inclined to believe it, because luckily for me, I get to have a front row seat of his arrogance and lack of compassion as far as the plight of students is concerned within the portfolio committee that I serve in. Minister Nzimande either does not show up to meetings of committee when we need to deal with crisis NSFAS, when students are homeless across campuses, when students are hungry across campuses, when students are suffering depression and anxiety, he doesn't pitch. And when he does pitch, he has the audacity to tell us as members of parliament and members of the media that there is no crisis within NSFAS. So that tells you that that kind of person doesn't have the compassion necessary to be administering politically over this entity and this department. He does not care. But how can you as a minister dare say, well, there's no crisis? And he did it yesterday again in his press briefing. Yesterday, in trying to show face to say that he didn't do anything, and he did a poor job at that, because we didn't hear what he was saying. He didn't give us constructive reasons for why he says he is innocent. But even in his press briefing yesterday, he's maintained that there is no crisis. Character, I don't even have the English term to use to describe
given the allegation of some money having been paid to him and then to the communists, a probability of paper trail that can link the Communist Party, if not directly to this.
There's always a withdrawal somewhere. There's always a SMS. There's always a recording, a conversation. There's always a slip somewhere. And the reason why
because through these recordings and the conversations that we have, sorry about for speaking into your trail of thought. The thing about also these recordings is that we do not get to see that says Blade, it's by implication. Somebody says that Blade said that I must do this, or we're doing this for Blade, so on. So that makes it difficult actually to get to prove, but it doesn't mean that there is no evidence.
Yes. Evidence is definitely there, and the onus is on SAPS. That's why we're taking it there, to help us get to the bottom of it, because those allegations are serious, and the reason why it's very easy also to believe them is because if you pay recording, the board is saying is implicating him, so you don't go and accuse the person and implicate yourself with freedom. If that's a, but what I wanted to say is, so your question was whether hold on, you said is there evidence, and yes, the paper trail. And so the reason why we want the South African Police Service and Parliament an investigation to this contact, that we can get those paper trails and get that evidence, and so that he can be brought to book. It is not enough to just have recordings and we have the Outer report, which we've submitted to the administration. It's not.
Do you think it would be an honorable thing to do, to sort of step aside, to use the language of the ANC until the things are completed?
That man is not honorable. There's nothing honorable about that man. About Dr. Nzimande, and I must call him, but because but his actions are deplorable, and that's why it's difficult for me to be sitting here and respecting him, but I must, because I mean, the honorable thing for him, as a case of shame, as a case of compassion, understanding how this issue is for the students, the parents and the families of the students, and the reporting for him to step aside. But his press yesterday showed us he is too arrogant and too nonchalant to step aside. And that's why we're also calling on President Ramaphosa to do it for him. Dr. Nzimande is not going to vacate office. He had multiple opportunities to do so across the years, because this is not the first time that Minister Nzimande is being accused of corruption. Not the first time. Last year was not the first time across campuses where we saw students suffering under his colleague. Throughout, he did. In the peak of his Mascol, for example, while I was still a student, Minister Nzimande had the audacity to say, when we were saying Minister must fall, he was saying student. So it's problematic. He's been problematic. He is toned. He does not. He is arrogant, and we know that he won't step aside. That's why the onus is on President Cyril Ramaphosa, the person who appointed him into his cabinet, to get rid of him. He is not the right for job. He's not for purpose. Does not care about his mandate within that department. He does not care about what it means to steal money and plunder money away from poor. Again, I maintain with staff, who are their families only shot out of poverty.
What are your timelines? Like, what do you think should happen by when? And when do you see any like the start of persecution? Do you think we have got enough evidence or anything to to be able to even draw the timelines?
The timeline is obviously going to dictated, the outcome of the investigation is obviously going to be dictated by the South African Police Service, but they do, it's a matter of emergency, and they are taking it very seriously. They're speeding it up. So we want to see that very soon. But also, as far as getting rid of the man out of his job, even pending the outcomes of the investigation, because of just his failure to politically administer the department and lead it into the right direction. And we don't even need an SIU report. We don't even need a SAPS report to prove that he has failed to run the department and to steer it in the direction. As far as that's concerned, President Ramaphosa must fire him with immediate effect. It is his thing is long overdue. His firing is long overdue, and we need to do that now. And again, I need to add here, Abdi Tami, just in quick brief, on top of the funding and allowances that have been laid, we have a student accommodation crisis across the country. Money that is being child is money that could have been used for grants to build student accommodation, to make sure that we don't have cases such as the ones that we had in Limpopo, Madala Bara, that we spoke about, where students are living in shacks that are funded by NSFAS, because NSFAS does not know how to accredit. Last year, the NSFAS funded student accommodation in the previous academic year was only under, what is 65 minus 100? 35. Only 35. Yeah, 35% of them were accredited. So meaning we had over 65% of NSFAS funded accommodation that was not accredited. In this academic year, they only have 6.5% of 2024 beds that are going to be used for 2024 that are accredited with their new accreditation system that they came with now. When they said that you
say 6.5 or 65?
6.5%. So I agree, we had the 65% accreditation that deals with your letaba, that's funded that they didn't accredit. And then they said, okay, we have a turnaround strategy. We have a new system in place where we're going to accredit faster. We're going to have online mechanisms to do this, so that in 2024, student accommodation accreditation is no longer a problem. We're like, okay, sharp. let's do it so before the year starts. But now they only have 6.5% of those beds accredited.
Do you not think, though, that the real problem there in that department is the administrators and not necessarily the politicians?
It's all of them. So we have a problem of administrators that are appointed without the right reasons to be appointed, who are there not because they can do the job, but they're there because they are politically connected to certain people. And we see this also with the problem, Co-Invest and the four direct payment companies, where we heard most in the recording that one of the people that was in the conversation with the board chairperson is the husband of one of the directors that those companies. So we have that problem. And then we have a problem of politicians that are corrupt, that are cadres that have been dumped into NSFAS and the department simply to achieve one goal, that is state capture. Cadre deployment has been there to achieve one goal. And we know this. Cadre deployment was never there.
I'm asking you this question because your emphasis is on remove blade. Now, remove blade, and then do we resolve the problem?
No, I got there are two solutions. So in the meantime, you get rid of the head, the kingpin of the syndicate. You get rid of him in the meantime. But ultimately, what you need to do is get rid of the entire government. We need a new government. We need an overhaul. We need a democratic alliance government that will be able to adapt the funds in the right way. And the reason why I'm able to say this boldly, it's not because I'm politicking, but the Auditor General of South Africa themselves year after year says that where the DA governs in all DA departments in the Western Cape, in all DA governments locally, we are the best governed. We are the best governments. Money is used in the right way. Every rand is accounted for, and it is done in the best interest of South Africans, where the development is seen better. So there is no need for us to look any way beyond other than the DA. We have an election coming up now in 2024. So we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity as young people in this country, as students, as parents, and as a nation to say enough is enough with the ANC and their alliances. That's why it's very important to make sure that come the cut-off of the 4th of February for registrations, we are all registered correctly to vote out the ANC and its alliances and to vote for a democratic alliance. In the meantime, it's important for us to visit www.check.da.org.za and register to vote for a new government that cares. Students deserve that. We can't be sitting back anymore and allowing Bontate Moholo Batshwana le Bontate Nzimande, the Bontate Ramaphosa, who do not care about our futures, who do not care about what it means to be poor and be hopeless in South Africa. On top of that, not know how to implement good strategies to deliver us from evil, but still chow the money, that the little that is there to help us prosper. We can't sit back and do so, not in our futures. And that's why I am a DA voter and I refuse to vote for the ANC. We need to get rid of him now in the meantime, but afterwards, we need to make sure that we have a new government in 2024 in the new election.
And in the meantime, given that we are moving straight into the new academic year for tertiary institutions, what hope do students have really that they would be assisted financially and their registrations would go well, given like the issues with money that we're talking about now?
And that's the painful question, right? Because everything looks so bleak, but we are trying our best. We are trying our best as the Democratic Alliance in our portfolio committee in Parliament to troubleshoot as many issues that students face as possible, given the limitations of the NSFAS system itself. And so what we want to implore for students is, let's fight as hard as we can. That's why making noise is important, so that they're scared, Libona, and they can't sit and just fold their arms. That's why I would boldly say here, if there are any students who are currently facing issues with their applications, with their appeals and their registrations, please send emails to karabok@da.org.za. That is KARABOK@da.org.za, so that my office the entire team and in the Democratic Alliance here in Parliament can be able to have an all hands on deck approach to help students who are in need of assistance.
And this goes to the question I was about to ask you now, as to why is it that political parties and maybe even just the DA, don't have a fundraising campaign, like a private fund, a politically motivated fundraising campaign just for education, where you say that as the DA we've been able to raise, say, 500 million for tuition for 2024 or for whatever year for students who are studying in this field, or just for everybody who is a learner. Why is it that we don't have that kind of thing?
I think parts of it have to do with the Political Funding Act. There are a lot of complications and regulations around what you fundraise for and what you use it for. But I do think it's a good idea for civil society organizations who are interested in championing educational freedom for students, the emancipation thereof, to be running such. But what's also important to note here, Abditami, is we wouldn't need as political parties to raise money for students if the government just did its job. That's all that is necessary. We can't be having South African taxpayers paying tax to ensure that students are funded, only for that tax to be chowed by politicians who are greedy, do not care about students. It shouldn't be.
I think that's all we wanted to talk to you about, and we hope that there is an answer to all the questions that have been asked, and we definitely hope that there will be assistance to all the learners and students in this TVET college